I just want to take a point of personal privilege to give a shout out. I believe today is the first day at the gig, but if we can give a warm Pontiac, Michigan welcome to our new Parks and Recreations Director who is in the building. He's giving a wave in the back, but a round of applause. Welcome again. You met him virtually the other week when the City Council unanimously voted to approve the mayor's appointment to the role, and so we welcome you, Mr. Director. All right, our final discussion item, Councilwoman James had requested that we add on the agenda an inquiry to the administration on the demolition status of the former McConnell School. You may remember that the taxpayers of Pontiac, we purchased that site for the future Youth Recreation Center, and so we're curious where the matter stands for the ground has been broken. We want to know when the demolition can be progressing. Mayor Grimal, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Mayor Stevens to give us a full update on where things stand and what next steps are.
Thank you, Mayor, Council President. So the McCarroll School, where we are currently is the engineering team is reviewing the due care plan, demo plans, and specs to create a draft RFP that will go out. We hope that that draft RFP will be able to be finalized and released next week. It may be 2 weeks before it goes out. To give you a little bit, so that is where we are. To give you a little bit of background, we had originally released an RFP for demolition of a number of buildings. The McCarroll School building was included in that list of buildings for demolition in that RFP. And so we do have an idea of how much it will cost, but unfortunately, because the building is over 50 years old and because it is going to cost more than $10,000 to demolish, there were additional steps that we needed to take. So we had to pull it off of that list of buildings and go back through this process.
Okay. Councilwoman James, you moved to add that discussion item. Do you want to have the first discussion?
Well, I just want to make sure I understand the details of what you're saying, that even though we have an estimate of the cost of removing the building, you've pulled it out to make it a separate project now, and that's going to take another 2 weeks, you say, before that RFP is published?
That is correct. And the reason for pulling it out is because of the age of the building and the estimated cost of the demolition, it needed to go through a different RFP process.
Well, you know, I guess I'm, with all due respect, though, we knew the building was over 50 years old. So, you know, again, this is our highest priority for this year, and we simply have to pay attention to time here. So I don't know what to say.
Councilwoman Rutherford, Councilman Parker, Mayor and Deputy Mayor.
So here's my issue with all of this. Originally, we had it with Purdue and 2 other buildings that was included in the RFP. Is that right? I'm yielding to him, correct?
Deputy Mayor is responding yes.
Okay, and so now we're back to square one on Purdue and McCarroll and the building that's on University. Am I to understand that?
Deputy Mayor.
Purdue and McCarroll, correct.
Okay. So in our subcommittee meeting, which we have at the end of the month, I will be expecting some updates because we have told people what you have given us. You originally told us that the RP was out, then y'all pulled it back. That wasn't told to us till you just told us today. 2, the citizens don't understand what's really happening. And so we have to do a better job of communicating what's the timeline, because this, not only is this the biggest priority, some of us ran saying this was going to be built in 4 years. Some of us made promises that this was going to be done, and the clock is ticking. So I'm saying it like that to be as transparent as I possibly can. It can't be 6 months from now, we're still waiting on the RFP. It can't be, and then what happened to the other, and I'm yielding to you, so you can ask them this, what happened to the original people that bid for that original RFP? Do they have to rebid again because you separated them? Because I'm not understanding, because the original one had McCarroll and Purdue on it, correct? And it was people that bid on it. Does that mean they have to start all over from scratch because of this?
We give the floor to the Deputy Mayor.
The answer to that question is yes. Councilman McGinnis, would you like me to elaborate, or do you want me to wait until? Okay. So the elaboration to that is, again, understanding the concept that time was of the essence. The administration moved as quickly as we could in getting an RFP out to have the building demolished. At the time that we did that, we did not have an engineer on staff with us. When we went to get an engineer on staff with us, that would be the engineer that we have through DLZ, that engineer reviewed what we had done and said, you can't do this because the building is over 50 years old, and additionally, you can't do this because the building will cost more than $10,000 to demolish. There is a state law that perhaps you were not aware of because this is not what you do every day, and you did not have an engineer on staff and moved as quickly as you could. And so because of that, we had to take this building out and go through the state process, which is why we had to do a new process for it. And that new process requires that you have to have a demolition plan, which is what is being worked on now.
Next on the speakers list, Councilman Parker.
Thank you, sir. I certainly don't want to be adversarial here, but at what point did we not have an engineer? Because I believe when Mr. Siddiqui, who was our engineer, left, we had a company that was working with him that was here. I thought we had some engineers because we paid some money for some engineers to be able to do that. So I'm curious, and aside from the fact that I know we'd even consider demolishing Ewalt's, but that's a whole different subject. At what point did we not have engineers? And the other point is, as we're going back through this, is this part is hazardous material or hazardous waste material demolition and removal a part of why this has to be redone?
Deputy Mayor, you have the floor.
So we have not had a city engineer since Mr. Siddiqui left. We do have low-level engineering staff, but this is above and beyond what it is that they do. Your second part of the question?
It's hazardous waste.
Hazardous waste. Yes.
To increase the pricing of this. Was that included when we originally did it?
That should have been included when it was originally done, but again, it has to specifically be called out as part of the plan for demolition.
So it's going to increase? I'm sure.
It may increase because, like I said, that was included, but it was not specifically called out.
Thank you.
Mayor Grimel.
Yeah, so let me just begin by saying that we agree with everything that's being said. Yes, it's on us ultimately at the end of the day that we didn't know about this state law that requires specific plans and specifications to be prepared. And that's our job to know that ultimately, or to have the right people on board who know that. So that's just a mea culpa on our end. I will say that we agree with the urgency here, and the urgency here in terms of the demolition is more about getting rid of the eyesore, because that's not the limiting factor in getting the youth rec building built. The limiting factor in getting the youth rec building built is getting it designed and moving forward with that. And as I think council is aware, we do have interviews that will be coming up this month to interview design and engineering firms and architectural firms with an eye towards hiring the best possible firm to design the new facility. So the delay in demolition is a problem because we've got an eyesore there that needs to come down, but the delay in demolition is not going to ultimately delay the construction of a new youth rec center. I do just want to emphasize that.
Okay. On follow-up, Councilwoman Rutherford.
Okay. So you just stated, Mayor, that you guys are about to do interviews. What's the timeline for these interviews being taking place so that we can actually have a design? Will it be by spring? Will it be by state of the city? Like an actual timeline when the actual design, once you do from the interview part to design, do you have a actual timeline?
Yeah, so
Mayor Kribel.
the interviews are going to occur this month, and we anticipate quickly bringing a recommendation before council after that. We are including several council members in that interview process. We want to make sure that this is a design firm that everybody feels comfortable with. I think that's going to be one of the questions we solicit from the design firms, is how quickly they can do this, because I think the answer to that question is going to depend on the firm.
Further discussion? Councilwoman James?
Well, just in follow-up from Councilwoman Rutherford's question, I'm wondering, who do we get that construction plan or the plan from? Does that come from the design firm or the construction firm? Where would we get that plan from?
The demolition plan?
No, not the demolition. This is the actual construction plan for how long it's going to take, the timeline that she talked about.
So that will come in two parts. That will come from the actual design firm. And then once the design firm is selected and through the interview process with the design firm, we will hear which each firm says, like, I can do it in 3 months, I can do it in 2 months, I can do it in 50 days, whatever it is that they say, and we hold them accountable to that. Once that is done, then it will be handed off to a construction manager who will then say, the construction of this building will be 30 days, 120 days, whatever the answer is.
So that's really the timeline that we're going to be working to, is that construction manager's timeline. Once he's given the design frame timeline, then he'll set up the construction timeline. Okay.
Councilman Parker?
And so you brought me to my next question. I thought somewhere in the last 2 or 3 months, we approved a internal construction manager, and will they be included in this process if we have actually hired that position? And if not, are we dependent upon the other person, the person who's doing the constructions, drafting for the design?
Mayor Bramwell?
We did not approve an in-house construction manager. I know there was a lot of discussion about this agenda topic, but what we did was modify the city's ordinance to give us more flexibility in terms of who we hire on the outside and how we organize outside contractors to do this work, so that it could be a construction manager-led effort rather than a general contractor-led effort, so that we'd have more flexibility about how we want to have architects and engineers and builders work together. But it's not about having an internal in-house construction manager position.
Further discussion? Councilman Goodman?
So this whole conversation brings me to another question that I have, and it's been mentioned. So to quote you correctly, we don't have a city engineer still. How long have we not had a city engineer? Asking through the president.
Abdul Siddiqui departed in the spring of 2022. Maybe it was April.
That sounds correct. And we have a contracted engineer now.
Correct. I guess I'm asking a wide shooting question of, do we have any desire or purpose or timeline to have a city engineer once again, similar to how we had with Abdul Siddiqui when he worked for the city of Pontiac?
Short answer to that question is yes. The long answer to that question is, as council knows, we are very competitive on some things. Salary is definitely not one of them. And we have found it difficult to recruit a city engineer because, unlike other positions, the city engineering position is not a position that is limited to government. So being competitive in a governmental salary is not enough. We are actually competing directly with the private sector on that salary. And we do have the preliminary results from our wage and salary study that I have spoken with Councilman Nicholson about, that I would like to go over with him one more time before presenting it to the entire council to act on.
Just to make the statement, we need to get that resolved sooner rather than later. Because I know me and my colleagues have mentioned about a city engineer both when we originally lost them and since then. And I just want to stress the importance that while we have a lovely firm that is working for us and is doing a great job, it is kind of incumbent and very important for the city to have a city engineer, especially in situations like this. So I want to push strongly. I want to ask heavily that we move more directly down that pathway, especially now with having the wage study done that we've been waiting on in regards to multiple positions.
Councilman Rutherford, followed by Mayor Grimel.
I'm requesting that in our subcommittee meeting that we have actual timelines and dates given to me, because Building and Facilities is my subcommittee. I'm asking my members, President McGinnis and Pro Tem, to be there because we have to have some tangible information. We can't say it's going to be done this month. We need an actual timeline. And the reason why I'm stressing it openly is because of this. People made promises. People are looking for results. And at the end of the day, if we cannot produce, what does that speak of this administration? We were supposed to get stuff done. It's not done. I'm sorry. That's what it is. We were supposed to have this RPP done. It's not done. And we got to do it again. So my frustration and the hostility that you're feeling is because if you would have told us these things before we got out here, we could have better handled it. Nobody knew that a new RP. I did not know that a new RFP had to be put out. I don't believe that Ms. James knew as well. And so I'm starting to feel like there's not a sense of urgency. And I hear what you're saying, but your actions don't dictate with your words. So again, at our subcommittee meeting, I'm asking for an actual timeline. When is it going to start? When is it going to finish? This is who we interviewed. This is what we did. This is what we're doing. Because it has to be tangible. That's what the problem is. That's what's causing all of the confusion, is because nobody knows what is going on. No one knows what is going on. And the residents don't care about any of this stuff. They care about one thing. They want a youth center built. And that's it. That's it.
Mayor Grimel.
We agree, Councilwoman, and I want to assure you that we do have a sense of urgency, and we just spoke about this, the Deputy Mayor and I, a couple of weeks ago, as well as about the need, now that we've done the compensation study, to utilize a new adjusted salary level for the city engineer in order to attract a good in-house engineer. We agree, Councilman Goodman, that we absolutely need an in-house engineer here in Pontiac. I would note that lots of cities don't have in-house city engineers and only use contracted outside engineers for their city engineer work, but we don't think that's appropriate or sufficient here in the city of Pontiac. So I say that just to say that the practice that we've had for the past 2 years of utilizing outside engineers for that role is not unusual. There are lots of cities that do that, but we do agree with you that we need an in-house city engineer here in Pontiac. And now that we've done the compensation study, we will be moving very quickly to secure a new person in that position. It is a very difficult labor market in general. I think everyone's aware of that from the perspective of employers. It's a very difficult labor market to hire people. It's a very tight labor market. So it's not easy, not just for municipalities to hire engineers, it's tough for the private sector to hire engineers. So I want to be clear about the challenges that we're facing in this regard, but we agree that we need an in-house city engineer, and now that we have, or soon we'll have, a new salary level to utilize to seek an in-house engineer, we intend to do so.
All right, Councilwoman James.
Just in closing, I do want to say that we are fortunate to have Shannon Filarecki, who is the contract engineer that we currently have. She has amazing credentials, and we're fortunate to have her. So I just want to say, even I agree with you that we do need to have our own, permanent engineer, but we absolutely have an outstanding person holding the fort with that position.
All right, so we will, City Council will actively continue to follow up to seek status and share it with the community as we get the information as well. Deputy Mayor, you had mentioned with engineering staff, you used the term low level. I just want to state that I'm sure you didn't intend for it to come off as dismissive, because they are valued members of and capable professionals, but in terms of classification. There's a different classification from the city engineer versus engineering staff.
Absolutely, and I apologize if anyone took it that way. The idea was merely to say that there are items that are administrative, and there are items that are grind day to day, doing the math. I can't do the work that the engineers do, right? So for me to say that they are low level is not to say that they are less than. It's to say that the understanding and knowing about that specific state law is something that is beyond what they are expected to do.
Hearing nothing further with this discussion, we will continue to revisit the matter. We are now at public comment. Pro Tem, who's the first request for today's public comment?
Yes, thank you, President McGinnis. Mr. Carlton Jones.
I guess I got to speak to this. You know, I do have some professional service and construction coordination background for the city and the school district. Mayor, I appreciate you coming forward and saying what you're saying and being honest. And I want council to know this, whether we have an in-house or we have a contracted engineer, they hold responsibility. Just like you said, Mayor, a lot of cities don't have in-house. They hold responsibility. So don't give a contract engineering firm a pass. Don't give them a pass. We paying them for their professional services. They should deliver and be held accountable. So whether we get an in-house one or not, as long as we got this contracted service, they got to be held responsible. Now, if I'm not mistaken, some of this came up when we was talking about what delivery method. Now, I understand most people don't understand construction. It's very difficult. But I'm going to tell you, if we want to expedite this, we need to consider that we have one source of responsibility. You have a construction manager, you have an architecture firm, you have construction contractors. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen right now. The buck will be passed. The buck will be passed and we'll pay. When it's delays, when it's change orders, when all that stuff come up, and it's passed on to say it was missed in the design or something like that, it will be passed on and we will pay. The best way to expedite a project is to do a design build format that whoever is managing it is responsible for designing it, and it all is in one lump sum as a firm price. Now, we need to investigate whether we can do it that way. But that's in our best interest. Now, I wanted to talk on public comments about workforce development. Mayor, I hope you was listening to Council Pro Tem when he started talking about the goals. We talking about community benefits. We talking about workforce development. That will help us here in Pontiac more than anything else. I know I've been saying this, but I'm trying to say we need to understand when we get grants, we get everything in here, there's no reason contractors would love to say how they can do OJT. You just got to put it in there. That's not a cost factor. That you do some OJT.
15 seconds remaining.
Okay, you do some OJT when you're doing these grants and contracts. And then it's an opportunity for our people to benefit from it. So, Mayor, I think if that's a goal, Councilman Pro Tem, I think those are some great goals, and I want to do everything I can to try to help support that we do that this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Ms. Renee Beckley. Beckley, Ms. Darlene Clark.
Good afternoon and Happy New Year to staff, people in TV land, and to the audience here at City Hall. My concern now, we're in 2024. Promises have been made. Disappointments have been made. One, I didn't intend to speak on this, but I am. Your mayor come forth to you guys to pass resolutions to spend money. You have spent it according to what he wants to spend. McCarroll School is not an eyesore. He wants you to believe it is. That was the only one school that really the owner took very good care of that property. When you passed there, he made sure the grass was cut at least twice a week. There was no trash or debris, and there was no hanging out. So when the city obtained that property, they really got a property that the owner did very good for Pontiac. Next, I want to address to you guys, the mayor came in here without a staff. He came into the city unequipped with the technology and I want to say the know-how, because if he had the know-how, he'll be a more better planner than what he is. I come from a construction family. I've been in a construction family for over 60 years. You need to have prototypes. You need to have blueprints. You need to have engineers beforehand before you even think about a project that you want to do. Your mayor didn't come with those plans. And if he did, he didn't have a backup. So that put the responsibility on the city. But what's very disappointing to the residents is that he put the conversation when we addressed to the mayor to address it, he also turned it over to the deputy mayor. The people do not want to hear from the deputy mayor because it was the mayor who made the changes and who dropped the ball to his administration, to admit. Another problem is that the mayor is doing, and I'm not trying to put the mayor down, I'm trying to let the council know you're passing and spending money prior to what he wants on his terms. The Martin Luther King Bridge is a holdup for the city of Pontiac. You got the Gurge Fund that these people still don't know where they're going. You got a new park and recreation person this here, and hey, you don't even have a recreation to build. You got a $2 million budget that was left from the last administration for parks and recreation. Wouldn't it have been easy to build a new rec center than to buy McCarroll with the, like Council Ruffers said? That's over a 50-year building. So are you butting your head against a losing horse? So my concern is that how many more
15 seconds remaining.
How many more times do the council have to be not so much told, but your eyes are going to wake up to a vision of what you really want Pontiac to do? Because right now, no disrespect to anybody nor the administration, it looks like money is not available. And in building anything, you should have an overage of funds available.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Ms. Gloria Miller.
That's my project, 2024, the bridge. Okay, and the next one, the recreation center. Being a part of the former council, that's why I told you guys when you first came to order. My mother always taught me, be careful what you say about someone, especially when you haven't walked in their shoes. Say, I've been there and done this. I'm going to say this before my minute's out.
15-second.
I'm going to get this out. You're not going to get a recreation center because you don't have the money, because the damn money is gone.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. That concludes public comment.
All right, we are now at City Council communications.
I also want to note that we're very grateful to State Representative Carter and State Senator Moss for their support in getting that $10 million for that MLK Bridge project. We do have a substantial amount of funds available for the Youth Recreation Center. We have the $3 million that had been set aside by the previous City Council and remains in a specific account for that facility, as well as an additional $3 million in ARPA funds that we have allocated for that. We will likely need additional funds beyond that, and our grants department, which has a very successful track record of securing funds, has several promising leads, and we anticipate that we will have the funding needed to complete that project. And lastly, I want to announce some youth recreation happenings. I know that the council president did a great job of announcing the Sheriff PAL programming. But our city youth recreation department has a lot of great winter programs as well. Those include a baking class, kickboxing, The Voice, which is a singing opportunity, Biddy basketball training, Project Succeed Boys to help mentor young men in the community or future young men in the community, mentoring opportunities beyond that, robotics, elementary basketball league, digital content creative course, intermediate band opportunities, tutoring, boxing, 3D printing, and Rolling with Soul, which is a cooking class. So we've got a lot of great opportunities, not just in terms of athletics, although that's important, but also in terms of learning and creative opportunities as well. If you're interested in enrolling a young person in those opportunities, we encourage you to go online to the city's website and go to the youth recreation portion of that website. Or you can also call our youth recreation division at 248-758-3037. That's 248-758-3037. We also have our now second annual Winterfest coming up here at